Good morning and welcome to this week's IGTV. I am struggling, but I'm talking today about why your teenager won't do what you asked. Like, you're pretty sure you made the request, you asked, and worse, they say yes. They agree. They agree with you and like, yep, sure. And then they don't do it. And you're like, I'm going to lose my mind on you, child, if you can't get your poop in a group and get this done. This is probably one of the most common things is this whole basic request thing. And when is a request a boundary? And like, but then I need a consequence, right? I mean, if they don't do it, then I need a consequence because otherwise I'm being permissive and they don't know that I mean business and I can't be that kind of parent. Okay, let's break this down. My name is Allie Payne. I'm a certified life coach, certified relationship systems coach. I have been working with parents of teens for 16 years to help decode this mystery so that you can get more of what you're looking for and not just being in control, but your teenager actually respects, like you don't feel so frustrated and feel heard. Okay, so that you can end the painful disconnection, the stressful silences, these emotional blow-ups, this constant day-to-day resentment, disrespect, and frustration of feeling like you're making requests, not being heard, then you're on this daily consequence cycle, and none of that is working anyway. Right? Okay, so let's stop it. Please just forgive my studio today. I'm doing the best I can here while we move around some furniture. Okay, so if this sounds familiar to you, just put like a heck yeah in the comments because I'm going to tell you right now, bless you. You are not alone. You are not alone. I get more messages. This is why I'm doing this morning is because I just got more messages about this today. I'm pointing to my laptop over here, by the way. And it is really frustrating, super frustrating. So, right? Yes, thank you. Okay, so I'm just going to tell you you're not alone. So, what you're trying to do, I think, is begin to have your teenager begin to take on basic tasks, right? Doesn't seem that complicated. Take on basic tasks that, number one, contribute to the house because they are old enough, they have the physical capacity, the capability to number one, contribute to the house, okay? And know that you're not going to do everything for them anymore. And number two, that they build new skills. They're building new competencies and skills for when they move out and they live on their own and then they know how to do these things. All makes sense, right? And this is, I think, what's hard about the teen years is that as a teen, your child, who is no longer a child because their brain is fundamentally different, your child was a consumer, right? Your child they consumed. Whether it was your food, your time, your energy, they needed more assistance from you. So they were a consumer. That's natural. That's normal. In the teen years is where you as a parent, and I know you are because you're gorgeous, amazing parents, are attempting to transition your teenager from a consumer to a contributor. From one who just takes with no awareness of what it took for anyone else to create that experience, lifestyle, meal, rides, monetary, for activity, all of that, no awareness of it, because why would they have that, right? And move to greater awareness of these things as they begin to be a contributor, at least from a task perspective, maybe not the finances, but they start purchasing some things on their own, and they start to build awareness and then take ownership of more of their environment and their experience of their environment. All sounds well and good, right? Oh, sure, easy peasy. We got this covered. And then you get to where, because you know you don't want to raise an entitled, lazy, brat, right? You all know that. You don't want to raise a kid who still can't even, is 30 years old living at home and can't make toast. You don't want to have the teenager who becomes the adult that doesn't know how to put gas in a car, doesn't know how to, do laundry or whatever. And so you're starting now. Good job. You're starting now attempting to do this transition from consumer to contributor. And this is where so many parents get caught up, and not for lack of trying, okay? Not for lack of trying. So what happens is, first of all, your request. Making the request itself, I know that sounds like super simplistic, yeah, Allie, I got that. I know how to ask my teenager to wash the dishes, or I know how to ask my teenager to do laundry. Oh, thanks so much. But do you? Do you know there's an actual science to the way that your teen's brain hears what you have to say? And when you think you are being clear, you're actually probably not being clear. And my proof of that is that they don't do what you asked. This is scientifically proven, okay? There are ways that adult brains as well take in information. We take in basic chunks of information, and if those key chunks are missing, what exactly is the task? And I know it's Allie, again, how hard can this? I'm saying do the dishes. I know you're saying do the dishes, but this becomes an even trickier thing when you're saying clean your room. You think you're really clear about what the task is, but your teenager's brain, that is a quagmire of development in new gray matter and trying to write all new software, and for every one neural pathway, now there's going to be 10. What you think is clear for an adult brain is actually not clear for a teenager's brain. So what the task is sometimes where the request falls off the rails. Is it super concise and clear as to what it is you want done? Because the key word that I just said there was done. And Dr. Brené Brown determined this after some significant mishaps, actually, within her own organization. What does done look like? What does done even look like? Because you're saying clean your room or wash the dishes. You know what you mean. Your teenager has a whole other interpretation of what you mean. Partly because of their experience in life, their perspective in the world, and the state of their hot mess brain. Okay, and the way that their brain is almost always in a state of hijack, of overwhelm, stress, anxiety, without school and everything else on top of it. So your very clear basic request might be going off the rails right there. What is it that you actually want done? Then, when do you want it done by? And why is that important to you? Because I know that can sound like a command, and you're like, well, again, Allie, I'm trying to do this new respectful parenting bananas mess, but I can't find the middle. I don't want to be an authoritarian where I'm commanding. Yes, I got that, but then you're swinging too far over to passive and permissive parenting by doing wishy-washy requests, and that's why they don't work. So in respectful parenting, you're super clear about what the task is that you're asking to be done and when you're asking it to be done by, okay? It's absolutely imperative, because otherwise your teen's brain, it goes in one ear and out the other, which brings out the other point that Dr. Brené Brown uses in her organization. Clarity is kind. Clarity is kind. Why? Because the clearer you are, the more chance your teenager has of being successful at this task. So you're setting them up for success, not setting them up to fail, right? You're also setting yourself up for success using clarity is kind with my proven request formula, because you can then dial back the nagging and reminding, which is the next phase of this whole request process that drives you crazy and your resentment is going like this, and you're like, are you going to do it now? Are you going to do it now? And you're like, okay, have you even started it now? Well, now it's going to be too late. That's not an experience I think you enjoy. Am I right? Like, you don't enjoy being that person. I know you don't. Because you guys write me about this all the time. I know you don't want to be that naggy, remindy, and then you escalate because your brain is now triggered into a state of fight or flight. So you're escalating until you get to yelling and losing your shit, and you're like, you blow up because perhaps this task wasn't done when you asked it to be done, or wasn't done in a way that made sense to you, but maybe didn't make sense to them, right? Okay, so that's one of the stages of why requests go off the rails. This is the second one that I think is not as discussed. It's not as talked about. And I think it's really, really important to understand. Let's say you got proven my request formula, you got it down, you've got clarity, you've got what is done, the time, all of that stuff, right? And your teenager looks at you or texts you back with, yeah, sure, or yes. So you're like, all right then, we're good. And then they don't do it. And then they don't do it. And not only do they not do it sometimes, especially when this comes to like a curfew, they do the opposite, or they tell you like, no, I didn't have time, or I can't do it, or I decided not to, or something. You're like, excuse me, you decided not to what now? Well, that would be nice if I just decided not to pay the mortgage and I just decided not to get groceries. And I know, because you're pissed, and I get it. Here's what I would need you to understand about the teenage brain. They are wired to seek your love and approval. The teen brain is wired to seek your love and approval. And so they will say yes and agree to things in the moment with you for a few reasons. Number one, to gain your love and approval. Even if they don't actually intend on following through with that. Number two, that's a one, I guess. Number two, they didn't think through what you were actually asking, because their brain is very inefficient processing machine, okay? They didn't think through what the request actually meant for them and their time and like what that would. So they said yes, but they didn't really think it through. So they meant yes in the moment, but then when it came down to it, it became a no, because it was like, oh, well, I didn't realize like I was gonna have to be home then and we were like having fun, or that it meant that I wouldn't be able to go do this. They just didn't think it through, okay? And the third one is, and this happens a lot, your basic request, which was done beautifully and your teen agreed to and said yes, but they don't follow through with, because back to number one, they were afraid of disappointing you. So they said yes, but never actually meant to follow through. And something better comes up, because remember, they're dopamine driven, their pleasure centers are like lit up on fire. Something more fun came along. They don't prioritize the same way that you do, okay? Yeah, that's a great question. So their brain is actually going through this, the physical growth of the changes in the brain is about 3 to 4 years. And scientifically, it can be anywhere from like start at 14, 12, 13, 14. It could start at 15, and then the software development, like their development of their executive function, doesn't actually complete now until the recent science is 28 years old. They get more efficient when the physical part is done, in my experience. The software writing until they're 28 is less challenging. But those for 3 to 4 years where their brain is both developing new hardware and writing new software at the same time are probably the hardest years. For them too. Yeah. So, so your request is being met with a yes, but it's not actually happening, right? So what do? Well, of course, what you do is now you move to a consequence, because you're like, okay, again, I'm asking you nicely, and I'm not being authoritarian because I've read all the science and I don't want to be like that parent, and apparently that doesn't work, so I'm trying to do this new way. So you do your request, your teenager said yes or agreed to it for whatever reason and then didn't do it, and you move to a consequence because you need them to understand that you mean what you say, and that your authority has some weight and some meaning, and that they're gonna take you seriously, right? Here's what happens when you don't clarify the yes that they said in the moment. And I love this, that you're commenting, that your teenager, says yes, but then something else more fun came along because they're dopamine seeking machines, or they say yes, but they don't actually think through like what that actually means for them. I love this because this is what I'm dealing. Yes. So the problem with setting a consequence when your teenager said yes and didn't follow through with the task. The problem with setting a consequence immediately is that you are missing what was going on under the yes. You end up missing one of those few things I said that's going on under the yes. So if you put a consequence before you have a conversation, like the kind of conversation where you like use these, like you listen a lot more than you talk, you simply open it up by saying, hey, this is what I heard myself. This is what I remember asking you. And then this is what I heard was your response was yes. And then I noticed it didn't happen, right? And so you get into this conversation, this is all part of my proven 3-step framework and my compassionate consequence formula, where I give you like a whole video and a flow chart on how to do this step by step. So that you go through the conversation, and what you're doing is you're unpacking your teenager's yes. What did yes mean? Did you say yes because it's habitual? Because you know I'll get mad if you don't say yes? Because we don't want that. I don't want you to just say yes to me if you don't mean it. Then say no, right? Or you're empowering your teenager to take a different route. Or you're unpacking, did the yes mean, well, yeah, I said yes because this is what I thought you meant, and then I did this, and then you got pissed. So obviously I didn't know what you meant about like the specificity of the task, because you thought you were being clear, but you weren't being clear. And then there's the third part of that yes, which is, here's an example. I'm going to give you an example. So I had a mom say to me, okay, to her son, who's been in some trouble at school, and he's been struggling. So she set like a kind of a curfew, like a time limit, like, hey, you can stay after school or stay in town. They live out of town. You can stay in town after school and hang out with your friends for a bit, but I'm going to come and get you like by 5 after work, not into the evening. And then it's, you'll be home. Right? What do you think he said? Yes. He said yes. And then what ended up happening is when she was about to go get him, he said, you know what? Some of his girlfriend and the girlfriend's dad, they're going to go grab some Starbucks and hang out for a bit. So I'm going to go with them. And so number one, he didn't keep his word. He did text her to say where he was and where he was going, but he didn't keep his word with what he literally had texted her and said yes to. So this was what I said to her, is that you've got to uncover what was under that yes. It's probably that at the time he meant yes, but something more fun came up and he wants to do that. Now, she said but still, should I set a consequence? I said, maybe. You've got to have the conversation first to unpack what happened, because teenagers are wired to follow the dopamine, follow the fun, follow the easy. They're wired for that. And at a time when her son he's really struggling. He's really been struggling in school. He's been struggling with friends. So not a lot of fun things in his life. And he had an opportunity to go do something that was simple, safe, and fun. Go to Starbucks with the girlfriend's dad and whatever. So even though he broke his word with his mom, I said to his mom, is it possible he's just looking for something spontaneous and fun at a time when in his life he's really struggling? And everything feels hard, and it feels like everything's saying you're not doing it right. You're still not doing that right. You're still not. What's under the yes, and what is behind the defiance, the direct defiance of the agreement that you had? And that only gets uncovered through a conversation that happens before the consequence, if in fact a consequence is necessary, because sometimes the best route is actually the conversation. Why? Because conversations build understanding, and you cannot build respect without understanding. You've got, so in my proven 3-step framework, what I teach you is how to have these specific understanding, uncovering kind of conversations in ways where your teenager feels fully safe to participate in the conversation. You build the understanding, so you're building respect, so that agreements you make with your teen and your teenager makes with you are far more likely to be kept. You enjoy a lot more free time because you are not trying to constantly nag, remind, and follow up with your teen. And you're not stuck in this daily or weekly consequence cycle that is not actually changing any behavior. And what you don't understand is it's actually undermining your efforts to create the connection and respect you actually want with your teen. So if you want to know how to uncover the yes for your teen, so you can still effectively move them from being a consumer to a contributor, and when they say yes, they mean what they say to you. Your agreements actually hold something. And whether that's a boundary and when do you get to a consequence, unravel this whole mystery, tap my name, then there's a link in my profile, and it's a free masterclass. Jump on that today, because the answers are all in there, and it's proven and has worked for not only myself with my 2 sons, but thousands of other parents as well. And I just got this testimonial back from a mom, so I wanted to read this to you, that her son has been struggling. This is a different example, but her son has really been struggling. And she was making basic requests with her son using my formula, but then he wasn't following through. And when she would get upset, he would kind of be really placating, and he would be like, calm down. Like, it's all good. Calm down. Like, it's all good, Mom. It's all good. Like, and what I showed her, what she learned in my program, the Empowered Parent program, was the exact words to use to not only not to stay calm in that, to how to let him know how invalidating that felt to her and why this task was important. And he actually listened. She didn't get frustrated. She stayed calm. He stayed calm. He listened to her, and then he gave her a hug. He hasn't given her a hug in a really long time, okay? Plus, so he's helping around the house now. He's actually doing the requests as she's requesting, and sometimes they negotiate about when they get done. He's also lost a few of his cell phones and wanted her to get another cell phone. And she's like, dude, I can't afford that. Like, no, that's just not going to happen. So he was getting upset, and she kind of needs him to have a cell phone for safety reasons, just to be able to text. And so she laid it out for him. She found, she used my suggestion on how to lay it out for him, what a cell phone costs, and that she wants to support him to have a phone, but she's not going to keep just getting the phone for him. Like we're not going through these like you do, your dinner. And he heard her in a way that he didn't get defensive. He didn't get frustrated. And now he's doing extra chores around the house because he has a goal and he understands why the goal is important. So this is a teen who's been struggling with low self-esteem, trying to fit in with the wrong crowd, and is now contributing at home because he has a goal and he's building confidence to feel proud of himself to earn another cell phone. And in the process, she got to build respect, trust, and connection with her son. So if that's the kind of thing that you're looking for, tap my name. There's a link in my profile. Grab the free masterclass, or you can also find it on my website, alipayne.com. Just go to the very top and there's a banner there. You can hop onto that free masterclass. I promise you, my proven 3-step framework will help get you through this very challenging time. Thanks for joining me today. Bye.